Is this film worth the 30-year wait? Let's find out. Hello Fanatics, I'm Dylan Phillips, and this is the Film Fanatic Review bringing you Blade Runner 2049, starring Ryan Gosling, Harrison Ford, and Robin Wright. First, we'll tell you what the movie is about, and our initial thoughts. Then we'll move on to our spoiler-free likes and dislikes. We'll finish up with some spoiler-heavy thoughts on this film, and our final word. Blade Runner 2049 follows the story of a young Blade Runner who through an investigation finds himself tracking down former Blade Runner Rick Deckard, who's been missing for 30 years. Overall, this is a phenomenal film. I'm a huge fan of the original Blade Runner, and Denis Villeneuve hits this sequel out of the park. I have to say that this sequel is probably one of the best of all time, and this is certainly one of the best science fiction films of the 21st century. For what I liked about this film, let's start off with the cast. While the entire cast is great in this film, I have to point out in particular the performance by Ryan Gosling. His cool and calm character and their immense transformation throughout this film is something that we haven't seen from Gosling since Drive. Most of his films since then, he was allowed to use his unique style of comedy, but he couldn't fall back on that in this movie. So it's great to see him do a 180 and show a different side. On top of that, after I came out of this movie, I couldn't see anyone else playing this character. The CGI in this film is great, as it looks natural and integrates seamlessly into the story. It really does feel like how the future would look. The world building in this film is also outstanding, as it builds on the original Blade Runner, but at the same time adds its own unique technology as it's going 30 years into the future. I was also surprised at how much I appreciated the subplots in this film. I wasn't too keen on them when they were introduced, but as this movie starts going, you get easily invested in all of the minor stories going on. I loved the themes that they bring up in this film because they're quite similar to the original, but they have their own unique take on it. And they were able to do this film as an investigative neo-noir crime drama, rather than the over-the-top action thriller. Typically, sequels seem to mean franchise in Hollywood, and that means bigger, better, and more action-oriented. So I applaud the production team for avoiding that trap. But the best part to me was the cinematography and direction. This film is one of the most visually mesmerizing films I've ever seen. The wide shots of the landscapes, the close-ups on specific moments, everything has a purpose, and it's tantalizing. And this is of course accented by Denis Villeneuve's masterful direction. After having the best sci-fi of last year in Arrival, he's proving himself to be one of the greatest filmmakers of our generation. We are watching one of the Spielbergs, Scorseses, or Scotts of our time. Now, in terms of what I disliked, there wasn't many things that I would personally dislike, but there are some things that might be off-putting to some viewers. This film comes in at 2 hours and 40-some minutes, so it can be a little exhausting for some viewers. I personally don't have a problem with films going to that 3-hour mark, as my favorite franchise is Lord of the Rings. However, this film doesn't feel as long as it actually runs, as the story engages and immerses you into this world. And I will say that there are a few instances in this film where the sound mixing's a little off, and where the score overpowers some dialogue, similar to how sound effects overpowered dialogue in Interstellar. And that's where I'll end our spoiler-free thoughts on this film. If you want to hear our final word or rating of this film, pause now and click the link in the description, because now it's time for spoilers. I will say that there is a dog in this film, and I hate going into movies not knowing if the dog will live or die, and I can tell you that in this film, the dog does live. One part that was a bit odd to me was the use of the giant naked women statues in Las Vegas. I understand it looked really cool having the sand billowing around them in that sandstorm, but I didn't understand the purpose beyond that. And again, a Blade Runner film ends with an ominous, open-ended conclusion that might confuse some viewers. So basically, the ending described is that Gosling believes that he is the one, similar to Neo in The Matrix, where he believes he's going to be the one that saves and pushes the replicants through the revolution because he is the first hybrid between replicants and humans. However, it is discovered that he is actually not the one, and it was just his perception of believing in this ideology that he kind of found himself and was not this soulless replicant anymore, but actually had emotion and feeling. and it's discovered that he is in fact not Deckard's child, but the memory creator was the one that we met earlier in the movie. And so they go to see her, and Ryan Gosling's character lays down in the snow and has this huge epiphany about, okay, I got here, I'm not who I thought I was, but who am I now? But it's kind of implied that he dies. Now, yes, this can be a very straightforward ending, but then all the questions arise. Why did the Doctor implant her memories into Kay? And how much of that memory was hers and how much of it was fabricated? On top of all of that, is Kay the only one that received memories from her, or are there other replicants that have remnants of her past? How can Wallace employ this Doctor as the best memory writer for his replicants and not know a single thing about her backstory? Yes, she tells us that her parents were gonna go off-world and then she gets sick and she has to be quarantined. Is she even really ill? Or is it just a way for her to get a target off of her back? Or does the hybrid offspring have some sort of terminal defect? Why can Wallace's assistant Love get away with killing the police chief? Apparently CEO's assistants are above the law in this world, and it just doesn't really make any sense to me. She's the police chief. She would have her office bugged with cameras, so there's proof that she did it. So I don't understand why, after she dies, that storyline just kind of goes away. These are only a number of the questions that are raised by the end of Blade Runner 2049, and that's the beauty of this film, because it takes additional viewings to notice the little things, notice the details that help understand some of these questions and also pose new ones. That's the great thing about films like this, and Denis does them beautifully. Which, by the way, if you haven't seen his film Enemy, which does a lot of this mind-bendy stuff and has an open-ended conclusion, I highly recommend it. And to be honest, there are way too many great scenes in this film to name a few, because the wide landscapes just blew me away. If I had to pick a defining scene, it'd be when Kay is intimate with his hologram girlfriend Joy, using Mariette as a surrogate. The editing and special effects for that scene, mixed with the tone and feelings it gave, made for quite the tension-filled moment. So, with the thoughts heard, here's our final word. Blade Runner 2049 is a thoughtful, emotional, and action-packed dystopian science fiction that not only enhances the original film, but stands on its own as a masterpiece itself. With great character development, a strong story, fantastic sets, and breathtaking cinematography, this is certainly a sequel done right. This film blew me away, and I have to say that it's probably the best science fiction film of 2017 so far, so I'm gonna give Blade Runner 2049 a 9. Thanks everyone for watching our review. Are you planning on seeing Blade Runner 2049? Or if you've already seen it, do you have something to add? What did you think of the story? Let us know in the comments below. I'm Dylan Phillips, and this has been the Film Fanatic Review. If you liked this video and you want to see more, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Check out our latest Fanatic 5 video where we discuss the top John Hamm roles. Don't forget to follow us on our social media. And until next time, Fanatics, keep it real.